Yeah, in the last video, we saw a bit about introduction of promises. In this video, we are going to go slightly deeper into the concepts of promises. So we saw that there is a dot then method on promises available, which we can use to find the resolved value. So whatever the promise resolves to, that value will be available as a as a data to the callback of dot then. So yeah, some callback is assigned which is connected to promise.then, and then when the promise is going to give us the value, then it will call our callback function. So the callback function can be something like this, which can be provided inline like this, or it can be separately defined, doesn't matter. And then we will see that this data will be available to us in the callback method. Okay, so let's start from there. So let's see, we had some promise p. For the simplicity, let's use the same fetch URL where we can use the URL, the same URL which we used last time. So some string this thing, and now this p is a promise. So we saw that there is a way to test it. We can simply console log p, or we can see the type of p. Also, in both cases it is going to give us, it's a promise pending, and a type of is object. Okay, but if you actually want to know whether it is a promise or not, then we also saw that there is a method called there is a property called constructor dot name. Okay, so yeah, so sorry, from here we are not going to run, we are going to run from here, and we'll see that this thing is available now. Okay. Oh yeah, so we saw that we can use this string like dot promise to check before we are going ahead with using our promises. We can verify that that is a promise, definitely. And we can definitely use fetch is equal to, we already installed a package, which is node fetch, so we can require that package from here, and we can use like this if we wanted to run it from here. So the same thing is visible from here also. Okay, that is fine. So let's get started slightly further. So there is another method called dot catch. So recently we studied about try catch method. We saw that in error handling, we don't know what can go wrong. So if we are suspecting that something can go wrong in a piece of code, we can put it inside a try block, and then we had a catch block separately, right? So here, in case of promises, we can use a similar thing, but the difference is that there rather than a separate try catch block, we have a then catch block sort of. So we know that the data will be available here. So let's print the data, and so firstly let's see this much only. So yeah, we'll see that some data has come, right? And we know that right now the require is not defined. So yeah, before running in the browser we have to comment it. Yeah, we say that the data has come, and we'll see soon that how to extract our this data, whatever is data is actual data, how to extract that. But definitely it is available right now, but it is resolved successfully, right? That's why. And later we saw that, yeah, let's say some xyz, some different name which we are giving, which is not a valid url, then the browser was giving us an error that you know what, this name is not resolved, whatever url you are pointing to. But again, in error handling we saw that this is not we want, right? If this something sort of this thing happens, then our code will crash. So let's see, here we are printing a, here we are printing b. but but you know what the problem is, that here a and b, what do you think, whether a or b, both will be printing? Here I'm getting error, right? I'm getting error. So what do you think, that whether a and after that b will be printed or not? So the answer is that even if the error has come, then also a and b both have printed, right? Why? Because this callback is called later when this thing is resolved, right? In this event loop cycle, definitely A and B both will be called, and that's why they are printed. And just in the next event loop, it will start waiting for the promise. And then since the promise is the URL is invalid, so immediately at that point of time we get to know that this cannot be resolved. So the fetch internally rejects that promise, and it is available as an error on the console. So this is one thing. If you run the same thing on Node, then you will also see a similar thing where it will say that yeah, some error has happened. And these errors, you don't want to throw it like that, or for that matter here also, you don't want to throw it on the screen. In fact, maybe that B has printed, but after here, after handling data, whatever you want to do, definitely those code will that part of code will not run. So you definitely need to be aware that at what point of time, if at some point of time the promise has failed, then you should be notified about it. For that, we have a method called catch. So like try catch, here we have then and then dot catch. So you can see that from here, so you can clearly see that wherever the then is finishing, then after that you are doing dot catch. Okay, so I'm just pasting it again, but at the end, whenever the then is closing, there I'm defining another catch, and its argument is like the error, the reason why it got rejected, and then we can print that reason. And now we'll see that we are in slightly better control, because if you see, this error is actually printed by us, not you can see the double arrow is coming, right, which means that this is printed by us rather than so if we comment this, then everything will go silently and nothing will be printed here. Okay, so you can see that here it is going to be running successfully. But after running, and this is like internally, this is not an error. So if you console log this, then additional error will come, right? You see that this error additional has come. This is just like browser trying to tell you that this name is not resolved, just as an information. It is not hampering your code flow or anything. The part of the code flow is this part where you are properly you are now aware that something has failed, and then either you can print it, or if you don't want to print it, or print something else. Let's say I want to warn that something went wrong, then all those things you can say here that yeah, we are properly handling this thing, and it is the responsibility of the developer to see that yeah, something is wrong. And if the developer will see this warning, then he or she can go and correct the code wherever needed. But the idea is that you are completely in control whether the code the promise has resolved successfully or it has rejected. In both cases, you have seen that this thing is working fine. Okay, and we have finally block. So here also we have a dot finally block, and here you can do whatever you want. So we can this always runs, something like this. So let's say in this case we have an error. So in this case we have an error, so something went wrong is printed, and apart from that this always runs, which means that there is an error, then also this finally ran. And if there is no error, so let's say this is a valid URL, then we will see that the data has come. So for clearly seeing, let's run in the browser, we'll see that the data will come, and the this always runs is also running, which means that this proves the point that this piece of code is running whether there is any error or no error. In both cases, this piece of code finally part is always running, like try catch and finally. Here also then catch finally, you can understand like that. So yeah, these are basically the methods which are mainly available on promise. Okay, there are a few more which you'll see slowly, but we can clearly see that. And one more important thing, why we were able to do dot then on catch. I'm again saying that the catch is available on promises, but I'm not applying catch on p. If you see clearly, you can see clearly. Let's declutter this function, then you'll see clearly that this dot catch is applied on the output of this. Okay, so you understand that this thing is equivalent to writing something like const xyz is equal to this thing, and xyz dot catch. This thing is equivalent, right? Whatever is the output of this thing on that. So if you do chaining like that sort of thing, we will later see that that is a proper term in JavaScript promises. But for now, I'm saying that whatever is the output coming from here, on that dot catch is applied. Now I'm saying that dot catch is applied on promises. Does it mean that p dot then is also a promise? Let's see that. Okay, so let's see what is this xyz thing. And if you see clearly that this thing is also a promise. Okay, so you can clearly see here. Let's remove a and b right now. And if you run it, you can clearly see that this xyz thing which I'm printing after double arrow, that thing is also a promise. Okay, and on that we are doing like this. Now what is the purpose of this? We'll see after some time. What is the purpose of this. But the point is that this dot catch can be applied on any promise. So we used something like p dot then. So let's remove the one. Now we know that this is a promise, so there is no need to declare a separate variable. We can directly chain it like this. Okay, so this is fine. But we could have done very well like this. Rather than p dot then dot catch, we could have done very well directly like on this. So p dot catch directly. But then this thing will not make much sense, because if let's say this is successful, which is the case right now, then we saw that this always runs. Obviously finally will always run, so that is running. But then after that nothing has happened, right? Which means that if there is any error, then only that part, something went wrong part which I am printing from here is running. And if everything went successfully, then we are not saying anything. It's like using catch and finally without try. That is not possible in that syntax, but here you can see that that sort of thing is possible. But then there is no point in doing that. There's no point in doing that, because obviously we want to do something with the data also, and that's why the most common practice is rather than directly. But the point of this syntax is that to just let you know that catch is something which you don't need to use with then always, right? Catch is something like then, which is directly available on any promise. Okay, it's just the case that promise dot then also returns this whole thing is again a promise, and that's why on that promise you can do dot catch. But the entire point of this exercise is that whatever the promise is there, if I use dot then and dot catch both, then what is going to happen is that whatever the outcome be, whether it is successful or failure, both cases we have handled. Okay, so promise dot then and then dot catch, and this is the way in which we can chain it, right? So rather than creating separate variables, you can directly write here also. Promise dot then also returns a promise. We just saw it. The point is that in fact promise dot catch also returns a promise. Not only that, promise dot finally also returns a promise. Okay, so all these things. So let's say right now p dot then dot catch. Okay, so we saw this much. So let's comment finally for now. Okay, so what is this? Let's say XYZ. What is this? This whole thing is p dot then dot catch. So basically, whatever is the final output from catch, that is going to be assigned in XYZ, right? And if you print XYZ, then you will see that it's a promise. Okay, not only that, let's add a finally also. Then now this XYZ is the final output from finally. You can clearly see that that thing is also a promise. Okay, so the point is that all these things, dot then, dot catch, dot finally, everything returns a promise, and that is why you can write something like this flat. So rather than some nesting sort of thing, you can directly one after the another add this thing, write this in order, so that it is easier to read. Okay, but there is another syntax also. There is another syntax where instead of passing a single callback, you can pass two callbacks. Instead of passing a single callback, you can pass two callbacks. And what is the advantage of this? The first advantage is that, like, if in simple cases you don't want to use catch or something, then rather than passing two callbacks, you can. So let's see something like this. So I will write here directly inside deno. So this catch, so this is the catch handler, right? What I'm saying is that rather than writing here, you can directly write here. So if you see clearly, that this thing, let's remove this part. This thing is first argument of then, and this thing is second argument of then. Okay, so if you run this piece of code, then you see that this is error case, and if this is like this, then this is success case, and both are running, right? So so like whatever the behavior was, like p dot then and then callback, and in that, then after that, whatever is the output of so you see something like this. Whatever was the behavior of this thing, we can clearly see that the same behavior is. So rather than passing as a second argument, I am passing another catch, right? Here also the behavior is similar to this. Now you see it is success, and we earlier saw that if we do something like wrong domain, then we are going to get error. Okay, so but then what is the advantage of one syntax over another syntax? It's just that both are this one is more commonly used. This chaining one is more commonly used. Okay, the reason is that later we will see that since p dot then is a promise, right, I can chain these promises also. So I can write something like p dot then, something like this, right? And in this sort of syntax, everywhere you need to pass callbacks here, right? So rather than doing that, if you pass a simply a dot catch at the end, then whether there is error here or here, all will be caught here. Okay, we will come to chaining soon, but in simple case we understood that whether if only one then and one catch is there, then it is not going to matter much whether you write it as the first argument and second argument of then, or you write a separate callback for then and then dot a separate error callback for catch. Okay, both are fine. However, still in this case also, I believe that this syntax is slightly more powerful, because you know what, in this case what is happening is that in this case the error callback, you see, the error callback is called when something went wrong. So let's say something went wrong, then definitely error callback is called, right? But let's do something like this. This thing is fine, so this part is called, that is fine. But let's say after this you like something went wrong. Let's say you print something console log x which gives you error, or you throw error, something like that. Let's see what happens. you see that it is uncaught. This is uncaught, which means that there is no handler, which means that again this is going to crash your whole code. But if you do the same thing here, if you try to do the same thing here, then see what happens. Then see that that is properly handled. So what is happening, and which means that see the output of this data is this URL successfully resolved, it gives successful data, and this thing is printed. But after that, in then, even after whatever you are handling, and this then is called with successful data, but even after that, in then, if there is any error, then again that is also, rather than being thrown outward, it is definitely cached if there is some chained catch after that. Okay, if nothing, if this catch is not there, then definitely it will throw an error. But if it is, if some catch is there, then that will be given to that catch to handle it. And that's why you can clearly see that this is printing response also, and after that something went wrong is also printed. This is also executed because of this error. So actually in this case, this is a standard method, which means that um, let's say data has come successfully, but the data is not what you wanted, right? In this case it will not be null, but I'm just giving an example that let's say the data has come but data is equal to null. Okay, then I'm not satisfied, means my then has been called, data has come, but still I'm not satisfied. I want to throw an error that unexpected data, something like that, unexpected data received. So you know what, now I'm inside then, and again I am throwing error, so again this will be also caught here, right? And you know that this thing will not be null, this thing is a proper value. So let's, for now, let's throw this error when this is not null, which means that when valid data is coming, then only I'm throwing, just to show you the case. Okay, and you can clearly see that something went wrong is called. And again, if you want to actually see the data of the error, then you can see something like this. And again, if you don't, if you are not interested in that much stack trace, these are called that where the actually the error is coming. If you are just interested in the message or the name, then you can again you can simply write error.name and error.message, and then that will be slightly more concise way of representing that, in case you are not interested in too much details. Okay, so that is fine. Now you can clearly, but still you see that this dot then dot catch is more powerful, right? But just I mentioned you that this is also one of the syntaxes where you can pass the success callback and reject callback both. In fact, as we'll see later, that they thens can be changed. So after this dot then, again you can have another dot then, right? But this reject callback is only handling this this promises rejection, right? Again in the next dot then you have to again pass another success callback and reject callback that will handle this whole thing, which is a promise that it's success and error, rather than, but if you have a final dot catch, then that is going to be responsible for everything. So that is pretty good way of handling that, right? Okay, so that will be all for now. Let's see some more concepts in the next video.